oftentimes we get asked, what does the Barnabas Group do? So we did something recently. This past year, I kept track of all of the people that attended all of the events, whether it be a SWAT team meeting, whether it be meetings like this, whether it be the coaching clinics, all of the things, how many people attended, and I multiplied that by the average wage of a Barnabas Group person, which is about $130 an hour. That's probably a little bit less. And doing that, we, in the Orange County group, gave over $1 million worth of time to the kingdom. Now, that doesn't count any time that you spent with the ministry, doesn't count gifts that you've given to a ministry, network, doesn't count anything else. It's a pretty amazing number, John Tumanello is a good friend and been a Barnabas Group partner for several years. He and I were having a cup of coffee the other day, and he said something that was very interesting, and I wanted him to come and just share it with you. So, John, let me...
Sure. Good morning, everyone. So, I'm one of those guys that took a long time to join the Barnabas Group. Jim bought me a lot of lunches and a lot of breakfast, a lot of coffee, and I actually joined out of guilt more than anything because I felt like a really spoiled NBA player, going through my free agency and having Jim tell me how wonderful I am and how I should join the Barnabas Group. But I do remember during one of those breakfasts or lunches, in fact, I think we were at Selma's for lunch, and Jim was telling me about a couple of gentlemen and a couple of women that never come to the Barnabas Group, and they just write their check. And I was thinking to myself, golly, why would they do that? Because the biggest struggle I was having, I was trying to always figure out what my return on my investment was. I figured, I'm fully invested in about 4 or 5 ministries right now, and I don't know that I'm going to be really getting involved in new ministries, just from a time perspective and from a finance perspective. So for me, I was doing that whole with them, what's in it for me? And I was trying to figure out, well, what's my return on my investment? And I'm embarrassed to say that during that meeting, I was more confused than convinced, if you will. But again, I joined, primarily because Jim was, at some point you just have to write the check. So I joined, and we continue to have our breakfasts and our lunches, and Jim allowed me to be part of the screening committee with some really fine men and women. And during that screening committee, my time there, it's funny, we see a lot of ministries here on stage. There's probably a dozen or so ministries for every ministry that gets on stage that just has a chance to meet Jim and the folks in the Barnabas Group through the screening process or through training or what have you. And it occurred to me, my goodness, the impact this ministry is having is incredible, even for folks who never even get on stage. And over a period of time, it finally just clicked, and I realized there's not a single ministry that I'm involved in where I ask, what's in it for me? I don't go through the math of 3 dinners a year, 4 dinners a year, or 4 breakfasts a year, and if I go to the golf tournament, that's $45. And you catch yourself going through this calculation of why we wouldn't join the Barnabas Group, or why we wouldn't make the donation, because we have this convoluted sense, at least I did, maybe I'm alone, of, I didn't make the math work for me. But I think the evil one has this really incredible way of, once somebody gives you something, and I see this even from the ministry point of view, once we make things available to the young men and women, that sometimes there's a sense of, okay, what it really is in it for me. But grace, God's grace, He turned my eyes around to see that this is not about what's in it for me, because as Bob Schenk said in the video we watched a couple weeks ago, it's really the return on investment in the kingdom. Isn't that how we look at all of our ministries that we get involved in? How do we advance the kingdom through the ministries and through our involvement? So if you're out there and you find yourself in a situation where, like me, maybe, just maybe, you're thinking, is this still something I should be part of? Or why would I ever go over and above the suggested contribution? Think about how you got involved in other ministries. There are so many times I've written a $20 check to a ministry, and then 4 years later I found myself giving them, a lot more than that. So I think we for some reason, we want to justify our relationship with the Barnabas Group, and/or we cap our investment without really understanding that the real return is on the kingdom. So. Hold on a second. I do want to ask a question, by the way, before I leave. You've been telling me about the Shark Tank thing. What the heck is that? I want to hear more. Come on.
All right, Shark Tank. The last meeting, we talked about some of the initiatives that we want to do with the additional monies that we get from the higher donation next year, and also from some very generous Barnabas Group partners who've given a commitment over 3 years, which is going to help us do a lot of things. But one of the things I didn't get a chance to mention at the last meeting is something we call Shark Tank. And Alan Pott, where's Alan at? Alan, let's go ahead and stand up there, Alan. Alan is going to be kind of helping spearhead that. And what we're going to do is we're going to put some money in a pot, and we're going to have a contest for ministries. And we're thinking about maybe giving them the opportunity to do a business plan on how they either extend their ministry or do a new ministry. And then we'd have a team of 5 Barnabas Group partners, and Alan would be heading that up. And they would judge what are the best business plans. And then we would give some cash awards. Cash awards that they would get at the end of the year, but they wouldn't get all the award right then. They would get more of the award, the 75% or the bigger chunk of it, when they came back to that same committee and proved that they'd actually made progress on their business plan. So if you'd like to be part of that, see Alan. Alan, raise your hands, wave your hands. He's back there, tall guy, blonde hair, blue shirt. Okay, now you can almost talk to anybody. But see Alan today and let him know that you'd like to be part of that, because they would like to start meeting and figuring out just exactly the logistics of putting that together. But that, I think, would be a lot of fun, and we do it at the last meeting of the year and have those ministries present, and be a good thing to kick off. So hopefully you talk to Alan.